Hello and welcome to the Codex video for the 6th Dragon Age Origins video. This is right after Redcliff battle, Redcliff village battle, and let's see what codexes we collected in this video. Alright, corpse. So this is a creature. To anyone who doubts the wickedness of blood magic, I say, with your own hands strike down the corpses of your own brothers who have fallen in battle to a Maleficar, then we may discuss morality. Knight Commander Benedictus in a letter to the Divine, 546 Exalted. The walking dead are not, as the superstitious are wont to believe. The walking dead are not, as the superstitious are wont to believe. The living come back for revenge. They are, rather, corpses possessed by demons. The shambling corpse, controlled by a demon of sloth, causes its enemies to become weak and fatigued. Corpses possessed by rage demons go berserk and simply wade into their opponents mindlessly. Devouring corpses are held by hunger demons and feed upon the living. The more powerful demons rarely deign to possess a dead host. Alright, so that's what we are fighting in the battle at Redcliff Village. Alright, we learned more about magic and religion. Let's find out. The commandments of the Maker. These truths the Maker has revealed to me. As there is but one world, one life, one death, there is but one God, and He is our Maker. They are sinners who have given their love to false gods. Magic exists to serve man and never to rule over him. Foul and corrupt are they who have taken his gift and turned it against his children. They shall be named Maleficar, accursed ones. They shall find no rest in this world or beyond. All men are the work of our Maker's hands, from the lowest slaves to the highest kings. Those who bring harm without provocation to the least of his children are hated and accursed by the Maker. Those who bear false witness and work to deceive others know this: there is but one truth. All things are known to our Maker, and He shall judge their lies. All things in this world are finite. What one man gains, another has lost. Those who steal from their brothers and sisters do harm to their livelihood and to their peace of mind. Our Maker sees this with a heavy heart. And this is from Transfigurations 1:1 through 5. Okay, so that gives you a good idea about this chantry religion that we have here in Thedas. Alright, let's learn more about the founding of the chantry. Cordelius Draken, king of the city-state of Orlais, was a man of uncommon ambition. In the year -15 Ancient, the young king began construction of a great temple dedicated to the Maker, and declared that by its completion he would not only have united the warring city-states of the south, he would have brought Andrastian belief to the world. In -3 Ancient, the temple was completed. There, in its heart, Draken knelt before the eternal flame of Andraste and was crowned ruler of the Empire of Orlais. His first act as emperor, to declare the chantry as the established Andrastian religion of the empire. It took 3 years and several hundred votes before Olessa of Montsimard was elected to lead the new chantry. Upon her coronation as divine, she took the name Justinia, in honor of the disciple who recorded Andraste's songs. In that moment, the ancient era ended and the divine age began. From Ferelden, Folklore and History by Sister Petrine, Chantry Scholar. Alright, so that tells us when the first divine was made. That's when they started kind of recording the new way of the calendar. It was no longer ancient, it was 1-1 divine. Alright, demonic possession. Why do demons seek to possess the living? History claims they are malevolent spirits, the first children of the Maker, angry at their creator for turning from them, and jealous of those creations he considered superior. They stare across the veil at the living and do not understand what they see, yet they know they crave it. They desire life, they pull the living across the veil when they sleep, and prey on their psyche with nightmares. Whenever they can, they cross the veil into our world to possess it outright. We know that any demon will seek to possess a mage, and upon doing so will create an abomination. Most of the world does not know, however, that the strength of an abomination depends entirely on the power of the demon that possesses the mage. This is true, in fact, of all possessed creatures. One demon is not the same as any other. Demons can, for instance, be classified. Enchanter Brahm's categorization of demons into that portion of the psyche they primarily prey upon has held since the Tower's Age. According to Brahm, the weakest and most common of demons are those of rage. They are the least intelligent and most prone to violent outbursts against anything living. They expend their energies quickly, the most powerful of them exhibiting great strength and occasionally the ability to generate fire. Next are the demons of hunger. In a living host, they become cannibals and vampires, and within the dead, they feed upon the living. Theirs are the powers of draining, both of life force and of mana. Next are the demons of sloth, the first on Brahm's scale that are capable of true intelligence. In its true form, this demon is known as a shade, a thing which is nearly indistinct and invisible, for such is a sloth's nature. It hides and stalks, unaware, and when confronted, it sows fatigue and apathy. Demons of desire are amongst the most powerful, and are the ones most likely to seek out the living and actively trick them into a deal. These demons will exploit anything that can be coveted, wealth, power, lust, and they will always end up getting far more than they give. A desire demon's province is that of illusions and mind control. The strongest of all demons are those of pride. These are the most feared creatures to loose upon the world. Masters of magic and possession of vast intellect, they are the true schemers, it is they who seek most strongly to possess mages, and will bring other demons across the veil in numbers to achieve their own ends, although what that might be has never been discovered. A greater pride demon brought across the veil would threaten the entire world. From The Maker's First Children by Bader, Senior Enchanter of Ostwick, 812 Blessed. Alright, so that's a little about demons. Alright, let's learn about culture and history. The history of the Drydens. So this is about Levi Dryden, who is part of the DLC we talked about at the very beginning of this video. In the years following the siege of Soldier's Peak, all those who carried the Dryden name were hunted by King Arlen's forces. Our noble Dryden name was smeared, and the lands and holdings belonging to the Drydens were seized by the crown. The king feared that the rebellion started by Sophia would be kept alive by her loyal friends and family, and anyone with connections to the Drydens suffered greatly. It is little wonder, then, that the few remaining Drydens found themselves with no allies and nowhere to turn. Tobin Dryden, Sophia's brother and guardian of her young son, had no choice but to flee for Eldon. Tobin bought passage to Antiva on a merchant vessel and traded under the name Deroker. Once in Antiva, Tobin set about building a new quiet life for himself and his nephew. He started a small business and eventually made a name for himself as a trader. Deroker merchant family prospered, and the name Dryden was almost forgotten. However, in 815 Blessed, Sylvie Deroker uncovered old documents belonging to Tobin and pieced together the family's history. In her pride, and perhaps in her naivety, Sylvie reclaimed the name Dryden and returned to Ferelden. King Arland lies dead, and the Dryden name lives on. Our family has survived, even thrived, since the death of Sophia Dryden. The nobles of Ferelden may still spit upon the Dryden name, but we Drydens know that Sophia Dryden was greater than them, almost a queen, and a hero of the people of Ferelden. So this is from the personal files of Levi Dryden, merchant. So he's the one who's asking us for help to restore their name. Alright, the Thetis calendar. So I kind of talked about the calendar a bit already, but here we go. For most good folk, the details of our calendar have little purpose. It is useful only for telling them when the Summer Day Festival will be held, when the snows are expected to begin, and when the harvest must be complete. The naming of the years are a matter for historians and tacksmen, and few, if pressed, could even tell you the reason that our current age is named after dragons. It is 930 Dragon Age, the 30th year of the 9th age since the crowning of the Chantry's first divine. Each age is exactly 100 years, with the next age's name chosen in the 99th year. The scholars in Valrayo advised the chantry of portents seen in that 99th year, and chantry authorities pore over the research for months before the divine announces the name of the imminent age. The name is said to be an omen of what is to come, of what the people of Thedas will face for the next 100 years. The current age was not meant to be Dragon Age. Throughout the last months of the Blessed Age, the chantry was preparing to declare the Sun Age, named for the symbol of the Orlesian Empire, which at that time sprawled over much of the south of Thedas and controlled both Ferelden and what is now Navarra. It was to be a celebration of Orlesian imperial glory. But as the rebellion in Ferelden reached a head and the Battle of River Dane was about to begin, a peculiar event occurred. A rampage, the rising of a dreaded high dragon. Dragons had been thought practically extinct since the days of the Navarran dragon hunts, and they say that to see this great beast rise from the frostbacks was both majestic and terrifying. As the rampage began and the high dragon decimated the countryside in its search for food, the elderly divine Faustine II abruptly declared the Dragon Age. Some say the divine was declaring support for Orlais in the battle against Ferelden, since the dragon is an element of the Dufayel family heraldry of King Megran, the so-called usurper king of Ferelden. Be that as it may, the high dragon's rampage turned towards the Orlesian side of the Frostback Mountains, killing hundreds and sending thousands more fleeing to the northern coast. The Ferelden rebels won the Battle of River Dane, ultimately securing their independence. Many thus think that the Dragon Age will come to represent a time of violent and dramatic change for all of Thedas. It remains to be seen. From The Studious Theologian by Brother Genetivi, Chantry Scholar, 925 Dragon. Alright, so we know that we're currently in the 30th year of the 9th Age since the Chantry was started, which means it's been 930 years since the Chantry started. Alright, Lake Callanhad. The waters of Lake Callanhad are steeped in legends. The Avar people say that it was once the site of Belenus, the mountain which stood at the center of the world, from which Korth, the mountain father, surveyed the earth and sky. But it was destroyed in the battle between Korth and the serpent Nethramar, leaving only a vast crater behind. When the Lady of the Skies saw that Belenus was gone, she wept and her tears filled the crater, making the lake. The Tevinters believed that the waters of Lake Callanhad were blessed by Razakale, god of mysteries, and that those who drank from them were granted special insights. This was why they built the great tower on an island in the middle of the lake, hoping the powers of the lake would aid their magical research. But most of us know legend of King Callanhad, which gives the place its name. It is said that Callanhad Theron spent a year and a day in the Tower of the Magi. Each day he drew a simple cup of water from the lake and carried it to the Formari at the top of the tower. By magic, each cup of water was forged into a single ring of the mail armor the circle gave to Callanhad. In that armor, made from the lifeblood of the land itself, no blade could strike him, no arrow pierce him, so long as he stood on Ferelden soil. And this is from Thedas, Myths and Legends by Sister Bertrine, Chantry Scholar. Okay, Redcliff. This is the village we're in right now. King Callanhad Theron once famously declared, "The fate of Redcliff is the fate of all Ferelden." Certainly the castle is the first and last defense for the sole land route into Ferelden, and the country has never fallen to any force that did not first capture Redcliff. The castle, which despite being 3 times captured, is popularly described as unassailable, also guards one of the largest and most prosperous towns in Ferelden. Redcliff village is well situated near the mountain pass to Orzammar and the Orlesian border, and so serves as a center of foreign trade. For these reasons, Redcliff is accounted an Arling despite the smallness of the domain. The inhabitants of Redcliff village are primarily fishermen or merchants who ship dwarven goods through the pass from Orlais to Denerim, when the entire village smells of smoked fish on certain late autumn mornings. The merchants in their finery do their utmost to pretend otherwise. From In Pursuit of Knowledge, The Travels of a Chantry Scholar by Brother Genetivi. Okay, now let's go to the characters we've met here. Alistair. So we've already read about Alistair. It has been added that his mother was a serving girl who died when Alistair was very young. He was raised by Eamon Garin, Earl of Redcliff, for a time. Isolde's suspicions were unfounded, however. Alistair was not Eamon's son, but King Merrick's. Eamon sheltered the boy to hide his existence from Queen Rowan, Eamon's sister. Alistair is fascinated by magic, even as his life is defined by fighting its darker manifestations. He has a fondness for strange runestones and figural studies of arcane creatures. So that gives us a hint of what gifts he might like. Alright, Arlessa Isolde. So we know that's Arl Eamon's wife, who kicked Alistair out when he was a kid. For the one who delivers the sacred ashes of Our Lady will have the esteem of Redcliff and all the riches in its power, and all the riches it is in my power to grant. The Arling of Redcliff was a source of constant trouble for Emperor Reville during the occupation. It was rumored that since each new report sent the Emperor into a fit of violent rage, his court had taken to poisoning messengers before they could deliver their accounts. Isolde's family was the 10th to be given the difficult task of governing Redcliff, and since most of the previous Arls had either been murdered by their bands or beheaded by the Emperor, they did not approach the job with a great deal of enthusiasm. Isolde met Eamon, not realizing he was the rightful heir to her father's domain, and quickly became smitten with him for being part of the resistance. Never mind that it was her family he was resisting. Perhaps a bit too romantic for her own good, she insisted upon staying behind with Eamon when the rest of her family was driven out. Okay. Sophia Dryden. This is also from the DLC of Soldier's Peak. Sophia Dryden is Ferelden's light and her most brilliant jewel. Nothing on this earth can ever quench her fire. Arlessa Sophia Dryden was the young Arlen's rival for the throne of Ferelden. Dryden was a strong and charismatic leader with much support from the Banorn. When Arlen finally won the crown, Dryden refused to relent. She pushed her claim, was caught, and accused of treason. Her sympathizers continued to support her, however. In order to appease them, Dryden was spared execution and forced to join the Grey Wardens instead. Dryden survived the joining and dazzled the Grey Wardens at Soldier's Peak with her leadership skills and charm. She eventually rose through the ranks to become the Warden Commander of Ferelden. Before Commander Dryden, the Grey Wardens were seen as a relic of older time and an unnecessary drain on the nobles' coffers. Dryden, though, with her political connections, reinvigorated the Wardens and rapidly increased their numbers. In the meantime, King Arland proved himself a devious king, willing to go to brutal lengths to silence his opponents. Arlen's reign of terror grew worse with each passing year, and some of the bands approached Commander Dryden in desperation, begging her to intercede. She agreed, and thus was the rebellion against King Arland born. Arland learned of the rebellion and took steps to end it. He publicly suspended all tithing to the Grey Wardens and declared that they were no longer welcome in Ferelden. Some of the Wardens, mindful that they were supposed to remain politically neutral, felt disgraced by Dryden's involvement in Ferelden politics and left her side, even as the king's forces lay siege to Soldier's Peak. The siege took months and ended with the death of Sophia Dryden. So this is from the personal files of Levi Dryden, merchant, the guy who wants us to help restore the Dryden name. Alright, books and songs. The Ballad of Aysley. The wind that stirs their shallow graves carries their song across the sands. Heed our words, hear our cry, the grey are sworn, in peace we lie. Heed our words, hear our cry, our names recalled we cannot lie. When darkness comes and swallows light, heed our words and we shall rise. From the Ballad of Aysley, said to have been written after the Battle of Aysley, which ended the Fourth Blight, 520 Exalted. Okay, so that's kind of about the Grey Wardens, I guess. About fighting the darkness and the blight. Alright, Legend of Callanhad, Chapter 1. So we've already heard a little bit about the rumors of where Lake Callanhad came from, so here's the legend. Prior to the crowning of King Callanhad, Ferelden was little more than a collection of independent Arlings and Tairnirs that warred on each other constantly over petty matters. Callanhad was born in 510 Exalted as the third son of a high-ever merchant on hard times. He was eventually sent to a distant cousin, a poor young knight named Sir Foranan, who made Callanhad his squire and dog-handler. As the tale goes, Sir Foranan and his squire became caught up in one of the wars of unity at the time. Earl Myrddin was a strong but generally disliked man who was making a bid for kingship. Foranan's own lord, a young fool of an Earl named Tenedor, no older than Callanhad, was besieged by Myrddin's forces at his castle, today known as West Hill. When Myrddin called Tenedor out to parley, the young Earl asked for a volunteer from among the squires, someone who could masquerade as Tenedor in the parley party. Callanhad kneeled before the Tenedor and asked for the honor. Much to the Tenedor and Sir Fornan's dismay, Callanhad immediately identified himself to Earl Myrddin. When asked by the Earl why he was there, Callanhad explained that he had been asked to take the place of his lord. The Earl said he had planned to kill Tenedor. Was Callanhad willing to die in his lord's place as well? Callanhad impressed Myrddin and his allies by saying that he was. Myrddin offered Callanhad a place as his own squire, but Callanhad refused, stating that if Myrddin had planned on betraying the right of parley, he was no man of honor. Myrddin's allies laughed at that, and Myrddin himself conceded that Callanhad had a point. He allowed Callanhad to return to the castle safely and launched his final assault. During the assault, both Tenedor and Foranan were killed, but Callanhad found himself in one-on-one combat with Earl Myrddin. In front of all Myrddin's allies, Callanhad defeated the Earl and commanded the call of his armies. The Earl asked Callanhad who he professed to serve now, if both his knight and his lord were dead, to which Callanhad replied that he would do as his honor bade him to, for he had nothing else. "You are not a man known for your honor," Callanhad said, "but I believe you wish to be. You allowed me to live once, so now I do the same for you. Perhaps if more of our people lived by honor, we would learn to trust each other long enough to live together." And with that, Callanhad drew his sword. "I am humbled by your words," Earl Myrddin told Callanhad, dropping to one knee. To his allies he shouted that he now knew he would never be king, but he knew who should be. And with that, Myrddin pledged allegiance to Callanhad, whom he named Tern and ruler of Tenedor's lands. From The Legend of Callanhad by Brother Heron, Chantry Scribe, 810 Blessed. Cautionary tales for the adventurous. This is what we need. It was then that he realized he wasn't alone. The abandoned camp in front of him was unbelievably welcoming, like a mirage. The fire felt like a warm hand grabbing his heart. It reminded him of a previous life, so long ago when he was happy. Running on the sunflower fields with his boy, the sun on his face, laying next to the fireplace with his beautiful wife in his arms. He felt a sharp pain in his heart. His thoughts shifted to that fateful day when everything changed. Blood was everywhere. He held the body of his dead wife in his arms. Around him, the ashes of his burned house felt like snow. The stench was terrible. It smelled like darkspawn. He grabbed his axe, touched the icy cold hands of his boy, and left. He would kill them. He would kill them all. The pain in his heart was unbearable. He opened his eyes and saw the second most terrifying thing he would see in his life. A shadowy wraith leaning over him, leeching his life away. Around him, the camp was gone, replaced by something familiar, almost peaceful. Bones, death, and despair. He wondered if all his life had been an illusion, if he'd ever had a family. For a brief moment, he felt relief. You can't lose something you've never had. But being this close to death brought clarity. He knew it was real. Everything else was the illusion. You could see a smile on his torn face. He had been waiting for this moment for a long, long time. He lifted his weak arms, grasped the demon's face, and kissed it. It felt like kissing a cloud made of sand and dust. Suddenly, all sorrow left him, and with it, the last bit of life he had. Before his limp body hit the ground, it was all over. He was finally free. From Cautionary Tales for the Adventurous by Brother Ramos of Guilherme, 794 Storm. So I guess this is what the chantry kind of tells you about adventuring. Alright, notes. We have a lot of notes. And I think that's it, just the notes. Alright, Berwick's letter. Berwick is the elf spy that we found in the tavern, who was basically a Loghain spy. Berwick, we need your eyes and ears in Redcliff. Stay in the village, keep your head down, and watch the castle. Report any changes, and you'll be well paid. Alright, so that's what helped him be a spy. Alright, we found a tattered shopping list. Sugar, wheat flour, fillet knife, ginger for Grandpa's flatulence, ink, cod liver oil, dried mushrooms, rouge, or lesion. Also remember to ask if more beeswax will be available soon. A note on crumpled paper. Okay. And graffiti in Redcliff's tavern says, "Don't eat the cheese," scratched into the bar of Redcliff's tavern. So important. Don't eat the cheese. Alright, so you probably don't care about the controls because I'm the one playing it. And that's it for our Codex video for this last Dragon Age Origins video. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you found it interesting. Bye!